The events today are just truly awful, and I know the whole country is deeply shocked at what they've seen and what they've heard. I do want to thank the emergency services of Merseyside Police who've had to respond to the most difficult of circumstances today. But I do also think about the emergency responders because they have responded to an awful incident today, and I want to thank them for the professionalism that they have shown in doing so.
Over 1,000 arrests across the UK. Widespread riots fueled by misinformation. At the center, a man with autism and a bottle of ricin. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now back to the video. The Southport Killer case isn't just about murder, it's about fear, social media, and the thin line between truth and panic. The Southport killing sent shockwaves through the community, leaving 3 families devastated and a nation grappling with the senseless loss of life.
We have to be very, very careful about the suspect, the defendant, who has been charged now with the murders of 3 kids and attacking kids. The Prime Minister, the Home Secretary, and indeed the police knew that there was a terror-related aspect to Axel Rudakabana.
Well, I think the timing was very carefully engineered. I think my own sense is that Keir Starmer and the Home Secretary knew perfectly well about these extra details.
But as investigators dug deeper into the case, they uncovered a series of puzzling elements that would transform this tragedy into something far more sinister. In the days following the attack, authorities executed a search warrant on Axel Rudakabana's home. What they found there sent alarm bells ringing throughout law enforcement circles. Hidden away in Rudakabana's residence was a quantity of ricin, a highly toxic biological substance that immediately elevated the threat level of the case. The discovery of ricin in a murder suspect's possession is no small matter. This isn't your run-of-the-mill poison. It's a substance so deadly that it's often associated with terrorist plots and assassinations. Professor Tim Atkins from the government's Defense Science Technology Laboratory put the danger into stark perspective, stating that as little as 0.5 mg of ricin is enough to kill a human being. That's an amount so tiny it's barely visible to the naked eye.
Inside number 10 set out precisely why, in his experience, Sir Keir Starmer would have known about this perhaps within hours.
You know, in the House of Commons, you have legal privilege. Why did the Speaker of the House, Sir Lindsay Hoyle, Labour, why did he tell MPs that they mustn't discuss this?
And I took that to be very, very credible information. And it was extraordinary at Prime Minister's questions today to see the Speaker, Lindsay Hoyle, effectively shutting MPs down.
The implications of this find are staggering. Was Rudakabana planning something even more catastrophic than the murders he's accused of committing? Were there other targets? The presence of ricin raised the specter of a much larger, more coordinated attack that could have claimed countless lives. But the ricin wasn't the only alarming discovery made during the search. Investigators also uncovered a study of an Al-Qaeda training manual titled Military Studies in the Jihad Against the Tyrants. This find sent the investigation careening in yet another direction, forcing authorities to confront the possibility that they were dealing with more than just a multiple homicide case. The combination of a deadly biological toxin and extremist literature painted a picture of a suspect potentially driven by radical ideologies. It's a combination that has been seen in historical cases of terrorism, where the possession of such materials often indicated intentions far beyond isolated acts of violence. As a result of these discoveries, Rudakabana now faces additional charges under the Biological Weapons Act for the production of ricin. The Al-Qaeda manual in his possession has further complicated the case, raising questions about his motivations and potential connections to extremist groups. What started as a shocking triple murder has morphed into a complex web of biological weapons and potential terrorist links. As investigators continue to unravel this mystery, they face a critical question: how should this case be classified? Is this an act of terrorism or something else entirely? The answer to that question could have far-reaching implications for both the investigation and public perception of the threat. Ricin, an Al-Qaeda manual, and multiple murders. Surely this is terrorism, right? Not so fast. The classification of the Southport killings hinges on a single factor so crucial, it's sparking a heated debate that could reshape how we define terror in the UK. At the heart of this controversy lies the UK's legal definition of terrorism. According to the Terrorism Act 2000, an act is considered terrorism if it involves serious violence, endangers lives, or creates a significant public health risk, all with the intention of advancing a political, religious, or ideological cause. But here's where things get murky. Ruta Cubana faces charges typically associated with terrorism, yet the incident itself remains unclassified. This paradox has left many scratching their heads. How can someone be charged under the Biological Weapons Act and for possessing terrorist literature, but not be labeled a terrorist? The answer lies in the nuances of motive and intent. Jonathan Hall, KC, an independent reviewer of terrorism laws, sheds light on this conundrum. He points out that the line between terrorism and other violent acts is often wafer thin. Hall emphasizes that the key test for classifying an act as terrorism is whether it was intended to advance a specific cause, stating, "It doesn't follow, I'm afraid, that because someone has carried out a big attack that they therefore must be advancing a cause." Chief Constable Serena Kennedy's statements further complicate the picture. While acknowledging the severity of the charges, she's been cautious about labeling the incident as terrorism without concrete evidence of motive. This careful approach has ignited a firestorm of debate among political figures and the public. The controversy has reached the highest levels of government, with Tory leadership candidate Robert Jenrick voicing concerns about potential cover-ups. Any suggestion of a cover-up will permanently damage public trust in whether we're being told the truth about crime in our country, Jenrick warns. His statement taps into a growing unease about transparency in law enforcement and government institutions. This classification conundrum isn't just a matter of semantics. It has real-world implications for how the case is handled, public perception of the threat, and the broader fight against extremism. As the investigation unfolds and the trial approaches, the debate over Ruta Cubana's actions and their classification will likely intensify. It forces us to grapple with difficult questions. How do we balance public safety with the right to a fair trial? Can we trust our institutions to be transparent about threats to national security? And in an age of instant information and misinformation, how do we navigate the complex landscape of modern terrorism? As the Southport Killer case unfolds, we're left with more questions than answers. The trial, set for January 2025, seems a lifetime away in our fast-paced world of instant information. This delay raises concerns about public safety and the right to a fair trial. How do we balance these competing interests? Jonathan Hall, KC, an independent reviewer of terrorism laws, warns against the dangers of silence. He argues that authorities should be more open about the investigation to prevent wild speculation on social media. It's a tightrope walk between transparency and protecting legal proceeding. In an age where misinformation spreads like wildfire, cases like this challenge our justice system and media landscape. How do we satisfy the public's hunger for information without compromising the integrity of the investigation? As we wait for answers, one thing is clear: navigating these complex cases requires a delicate balance of openness, caution, and respect for due process.